Just as important as what's our definition of success is the question, what's your definition of failure? Who said it failed?
Right.
We talked in an earlier masterclass about disappointment, and disappointment is relative to time. And when you remove the element of time, you don't have to be disappointed because it's going to happen and it's in God's hands.
Yeah.
So what do you walk people through when they're experiencing what they perceive to be failure, but you know as a coach, this is a growth moment, this is a growth season?
Yeah. I think the first part is always, as I said earlier, just remove the surprise from people. It's like they're so shocked that they had a bad performance. I was like, you've been on tour for 3 years. You didn't think one of them you were gonna suck? Or you just remove like the struggle and the failure, it is going to be there. And it is a personal definition. You thought you failed, but 15,000 people chanted. You thought you failed, but you weren't arrested the next day. You thought we have these cataclysmic things about failure, and we always realize failure is a personal definition. So first I want to go, why were you surprised? Second, what is your definition? Tell me, what does that mean that you failed? And what's interesting, when people use the terminology of failure, they drop into the fixed mindset right away because they believe that the failure stopped something. I failed. And it's just like this defined event, and their progress stopped, and their growth will stop. And so their definition of failure often comes with like a stop sign. And I have to say, oh, there's no stop sign. That was an incident in life. Tomorrow there's gonna be 40 other incidents. That was one struggle, you're gonna have another 1,000. So there was no stop sign. It was something that occurred, but it occurred in the stream of life. And now you're downstream of that difficulty, and now you're gonna face another boulder that's similar. Okay, how are you gonna navigate this one? Because that's what that gave you. That difficulty gave you navigation instructions. It wasn't a failure, it was a navigation instruction manual. It was like,
I love that.
Hey, okay, you hit this thing, it didn't go right. That boulder is going to appear in the stream again. Probably a lot of times until you learn, right? So now you know the boulder's coming up. Well, let me skill up. Let me learn how to navigate that. Let me learn how to use my oar and snap my hip in the kayak to pop around that boulder.
Yeah.
Let me skill up so next time I face it, I'm a little stronger.
Yeah.
I'm a little smarter, I'm a little more wise. And so that's a developmental standpoint. It doesn't say, I stopped there, it's forever fixed, I'm always gonna be ruined here. It says, that's probably gonna come up again. Let me teach myself, how would the best self deal with it? How would I skill up to deal with it better? It's taking a struggle that's inevitable, and it's equipping ourselves for the future. And maybe what came out of that struggle is I'm gonna equip myself to be kinder next time. I'm gonna equip myself to be more patient. I'm gonna equip myself to develop a skill that I can do this or that, so that it doesn't feel so harsh or surprising or awful next time. Because that's maturity, as we get better at things.
Yeah.
Like you do as a speaker, right? My metaphor for that would be, I trained myself to speak to a small group, and then a slightly bigger group, and a slightly bigger group, and a slightly. The problem was I was, probably level of 1,000 people. I still felt like I wanted to throw up before going out there.
Yeah.
And I had to say, I need to train myself to be in a good place to handle life's challenges. And that's what I want people to hear, is like, the struggles are inevitable. Train yourself to be in a good place, learning from your past lessons, and preparing yourself now for the struggle that you're in. Because the season that you're in, which is why I love the chapter title here, it's like the season that you're in, you're equipped, you're emboldened, you got backing, and you have to step in faith and stay in motion and not hit the stop sign.
Step in faith, because the struggle is not a stop sign. It's a strength builder. It's a struggle builds strength. So write these two down. Struggle builds strength. Not all struggle. Some struggle, you're struggling because you're stubborn. Like, you're not supposed to still be struggling with this. You're supposed to apologize. Quit trying to prove you're right. But when the struggle is something that God is taking you through and leading you through, it's going to build strength.
Don't put a stop sign on the struggle.
Don't put a stop sign on the struggle.
Especially when it's bad and you didn't want it. I mean, people, I know you minister to people who've their struggle or their challenge in this season, they lost a child. And when you tell them, well, just be strong through it, it sounds so flippant. But sometimes when you say, there will be strength. You'll be provided for, but also don't stop there. Don't forget you do have maybe another child, or don't forget that your life doesn't have to stop because they were called. And so I think it's a matter of when our struggles hurt us and there's no growth from them is when we put that stop sign and we think that ended our life, that ended our progress, that ended our reputation. And so when I say don't put a stop sign on a struggle, it's not trying to say that anyone ever wanted those terrible things that happened to us that are our struggles and problems. It's saying when you have that terrible thing and that awful thing, and you can't find the strength.
Yeah.
When they hear guys like us say, well, there's strength there, and they're like, there's no strength that came from this awful, I lost my dad. There's no strength from that, Brendan. I go, yeah, it doesn't feel like it. And you might be right, but don't stop living, because your dad didn't want you to stop living. He doesn't want you to stop living. And so the most important thing when you say that there's a season for everything and that God is with you there is don't put stop signs on the struggle.